so what we'll do is we'll answer any questions anybody has about literally anything.
We'll try to make it quick too, because we know everybody has lives and you got shows you're watching. We're trying to get to that too.
Right out of high school, I went to Bible college. I made the decision coming out of high school that it was the best decision for me, in that I was kind of unsure about what I wanted to do with my life, career-wise, and just what I in general was going to be doing. And I was like, I think that the best thing for me to do is to go get my foundation set and go and dedicate a couple years to just kind of seeing what God had for me. So I went to Calvary Chapel Bible College in Marietta. I was there for 2 years, and while I was there, I dated off and on. I dated off and on through high school and stuff like that. But
Just kidding. Not a player.
No, not even remotely. I dated off and on through high school and through Bible college, and then towards about maybe midway through Bible college, I had I had serious girlfriends, but not serious, 18, whatever. I had one serious girlfriend from Bible college on, and we dated for 3 years. I was very, very close with her family, and her brother and her mom and dad, they were surrogate mom and dads for me. They were fantastic, and I definitely got a lot out of that relationship. In that relationship, her name was Kelly. Her and I, we stayed pure through that entire relationship. And it was something that both of us decided going into it. We were like, look, these are the guidelines and boundaries we're basically going to set for this. We're going to be honorable to what kind of God has set for, or put in front of us. And we basically kept that relationship nice and clean. So we dated for a long time, and then coming out of that, I was like, I just wanted some time to myself. All through high school and all of college, I felt like I was constantly just chasing after, I need to find that person. I just don't feel like I'm whole. I just was always looking and trying to find my Ash, and
your Abigail.
Yeah. So, coming out of that relationship, I was like, all right, I just need to stop. I need to not do anything, and I just need to focus on being content with this phase of my life and what God wants for me in this phase of my life. And I spent 6 straight months of just focusing on all right, God, I'm not going to even remote. I'm not going to date. I'm not going to go chasing anything. I'm just going to leave it be. And during that time, I spent a lot of time just being okay with just myself, just being okay alone. And I trained for a marathon, and I hung out with some of my guy roommates, and I just kind of stopped chasing. And I feel like that is something I definitely want to make sure that I encourage everybody to be kind of aware of, is that that was a hugely important part of my life. Is that I mean it sounds ridiculous. It was only 6 months, but I feel like I just shut everything off and allowed those 6 months to be something that was like, God, I'm going to let you just be cool with just me and you kind of thing. And what ended up happening is coming out, after 6 months of just stopping and not looking anymore, I ended up, God dropped Ash on my plate. I mean, I'll tell maybe the beginnings of that story. So, just as we'll go really quickly, I'll tell just the end or the very, very beginning of how Ash and I met. So
we want to save that for the next one.
Yeah, we'll talk about that more on the next one. But Ash's mom and my mom are actually very close friends. I played soccer with Ash's brother when we were 12 on the soccer field, but I'm 4 years older than Ash, so obviously I never really saw. I mean, when I left home, I was 17 and she was 13. So I never really saw her that way. And then when I left, and then my mom and dad, I was 23, they were like, hey, you should come home. They lived in Vegas. They said, come out and visit us. And we're going to have some other friends out and stuff like that. I'm like, all right, cool. So I showed up, and I was hanging out with my mom and dad, and they were like, hey, somebody's going to be coming. Lori and her daughter Ashley, I'm like, you guys are going to try and set us up. You are absolutely going to be setting us up. So I was like, all right, look, I'll give it a shot, but I have to be back at school, and I don't really want to, like, I'm happy right now. I'm, like, doing my marathon training thing. I'm, like, just chilling with my boys. And I opened the door for when she was there, like, when her and her mom came to the door, and I was like, whoa, this is not the Ashley that I at all remember. I was 24 at the time. She was 20. Actually 23 and 19, because we just, or maybe you had just
turned 20.
And I hung out, like, right then and there. We all started hanging out outside, and then all the parents slowly moved away. And so it was just Ash and I hanging out outside. And we were only there hanging out outside for like 15 minutes. And we came, like, I was like, oh, I'm going to go run inside real quick. And I came inside, and my dad was there. I'm like, hey, how are things going? And I'm like, yeah, I'm going to marry her. So it was like that. It was like instantaneously. I just kind of knew. So I'll leave it at that. Then we can go into more of like our crazy non-conventional dating and quick to be married situation probably at another time. So.
Oh yes, and I will read through all of these. Some of them are super inappropriate. I did not make my account private, which I should have before. So please, I'm not going to read any of those out loud, and please just dismiss those, and please stop writing on my page. But I will go through all of the comments, and I'll answer any questions. But yes, I'll share a picture after this. So my story is a little bit different. I grew up in a Christian home. Whatever that really means, I guess. You know, we went to church, and I knew, we went to church, and I knew, my parents taught me what was right and what was wrong, and that was about as deep as it really went. So throughout my high school years, I was like a good girl. I didn't really do too many things. I just tried to stay like doing my own thing, and then end of my senior year, I started dating somebody, and I decided that it was a good time for me to lose my virginity. I remember actually thinking about it. I was talking to a friend in the car, and I had not done it. I had had a serious boyfriend before then for 3 years, and I hadn't done that. And I remember asking the friend, like, she asked me actually, why aren't you having sex? And I was like, I feel like nobody's ever really asked me that, and I feel like I've never really even thought about it. And I didn't know why. I was like, I have no idea. I just know that I shouldn't, and so, like, I just didn't have a reason. So at that point, I decided to do it. And I had a boyfriend for 3 years, and it was a pretty unhealthy relationship. There was cheating, there was lots of things that I, sometimes feel sad about, but they are part of my past, and I feel like because of them, they have kind of not shaped me, but they've allowed me to share my story, and they've allowed me to know, I guess, what I want to teach my kids, and, it kind of molded me in a way, in a positive way. I've taken the positive away from it. So, I think when I look back to those times, and when I look back to that time in my life, I wish that I would have had somebody saying to me, hey, don't do this because of this reason. And when I met Dino, well, first of all, one of the reasons why I did it too is I didn't really have a reason why. And I remember thinking also, why would I save myself for somebody if nobody else is going to do that? Like, I had gone to youth groups, I had met a lot of people, I had dated other guys, and I just was like, I feel like all these Christian guys are like losers, and I wasn't attracted to anybody, and sorry, no, but that's just really how I felt. And I was like, why should I save myself if nobody else is going to save themselves for me? And so when I met Dino again, and I realized that, I obviously told him my past, and he was so amazing, and he has never made me feel sorry, or not sorry, but it never made me feel bad about it, ever. And I feel like that is so important from a man or a woman, to never put that on somebody else, on your husband, your wife, or somebody, because the past is in the past. When I realized that he hadn't, I felt so, I guess, sad, because I just felt like I gave away something that, like, he had been so amazing saving himself for me, and I couldn't do that same thing for him. And he never made me feel that way, but I just felt that way on my own. So from that point on, I just always thought, like, I want to tell my kids, I want to teach my children, and I want to, like, share with young girls that, like, we have this gift, we have this, like, prize that God has given us, and that he doesn't just say things just to say things, you know, so we don't have fun. Like, saving yourself for marriage is a beautiful thing, and that gift is for each other, for you guys to share. And it's more amazing and more magical and unbelievable, you know, if we can do that. Now, I obviously didn't do that, and but there's forgiveness in that.
You know what? Here's one thing. Britt actually put this well. He's like, the gifts of marriage are, and the gifts that are meant to be shared between a husband and a wife are gifts. And you can slowly erode those gifts by taking them and opening them up as, you know, before, you know, it's time with your spouse. And ultimately all you're doing is robbing yourself from later on in life. Now, I mean, Ash and I talked a lot too about how we didn't want to talk too much and make that like, yeah, us waiting or not waiting as like the primary focus of this conversation.
Each person has their own story, and
Absolutely.
Whatever you've done in your past, like, if you've already done that or not, like, there's still beautiful things to be had in marriage.
Yeah,
it doesn't
absolutely.
negate that at all.
Absolutely. Yep. So yeah, it's one of those things, but we just wanted to talk about it. We wanted to, like, be open and honest about us and how it's been in our relationship. And I again, we started all this because it was like, I wish there was just some people in our lives that were, when we were younger, to just speak into our lives, tell us, hey, this is our story, this is how, what was hard, or this is what was easy, or any of those kinds of things. So, yeah.
Yeah. And like I said, if you have done those things, like, there's no shame in that. God is a God of love, and there's so much forgiveness in that, and I'm just so thankful for that. And yeah, so we can go kind of through and answer any questions. I think the biggest points we wanted to make in this pre-marriage talk is to not just be, like, searching, to be content with who you are. And I think that's something that I try to share on my page now a lot, is just to be content being alone, to be content with who you are, and not just be, like, searching, because a guy is not going to fulfill all of your needs. A girl's not going to fulfill all of your needs. A one-night stand is not going to fulfill all your needs. You're going to wake up the next morning feeling, you know, that is not going to fill the void. So figure out, I guess, be comfortable with yourself. Be comfortable being alone, and try to find a contentment being alone.
Yeah, and I mean, I have great parents too. I love my parents to death. And one of the things my dad would always tell me is, like, look, it's a huge misconception of yours that you think that he was talking to me specifically, that you think that that something magical is going to happen, like, you're going to feel like by finding that person you're going to become whole. It does not work that way. You need to ensure first that you are a whole person. You are okay in who you are, and that ideally that person is okay in who they are, and the two of you coming together can really have a relationship that is two wholes becoming one. So.
And then I just quickly read somebody's question, and I just thought it's a great time to answer this. How did you know that she or he was the one you were supposed to marry? And, you know, I think for both of us, we prayed about it, and there was just no hesitation. We asked people around us to pray about it. I mean, quick like giveaway if you don't already know, we got engaged after 3 weeks of dating. So
and that was obviously very out of the ordinary for that type of.
Not saying that if you don't know after 3 weeks, then you're like, that's just a weird story, and that's our story. So don't put that on you. But
I mean, she was in a long-term relationship of 3-something years before. I was in a very long 3+ year relationship before. So it's not like either one of us were like, let's go, you know, kind of in terms of that. But for us. When we met and we were together, we were immediately locked on.
Yeah.
It was that again has a lot to do with just both of our personalities and how our personalities.
Type 8s.
Yeah.
Now that we know.
Yeah. Seriously, yeah. A little tangent here. If you haven't done the Enneagram test,
Guys,
we were touting it the other day. But Ash and I are both 8s, so you can just Google Enneagram type 8, and you can see generally like what our personalities are. We're actually both 8-wing 7s, which is if you go through, there's also, it talks heavily about like what the relationship is like between those types of people, and it is very descriptive of who we are. So for us and our personalities, when we met and we both were like, wow, this is something special, we both went full bore, all in.
And that we'll talk about a lot when we go like dive into marriage, but I think that's probably our biggest thing that we tell people and that we feel keeps our marriage alive. Because somebody just kind of asked that. Time.
Yeah.
And priority.
Yeah.
Always making each other feel like we are the priority. And I know that if you know the Enneagram, that we are both 8s, and so that's easier for us, I would say. But time and priority, we know that we are always number one in each other's lives and always number one in everything. We're on the same team, and I think that keeps us united most of the time.
Yeah, and to be honest, though, that is not always something that's easy. No. I mean, a lot of times it's easier, but there are definitely times when that is an extremely difficult thing. I mean, we've been married 12 years, we've been together 13 now. But we've definitely had our bumps in the road. We've had both of us very difficult phases where the other one was in a rough patch. Mm-hmm. And I've had to, and she's had to, probably a lot more than I have, sacrifice and been like, you know, for example, Dino's been having a real rough one right now. He's not necessarily being obedient to what, you know, the God has for us and what the roles that we're supposed to have in our relationship. And because I'm being disobedient or I'm being selfish, she has then gone out of her way to be extra selfish, to be extra, you know...
Selfless?
Selfless, that's what I said.
Selfish. I do that too. I do get extra selfish too.
Yeah, so, I mean, it takes a lot of like...
It's a lot of work.
Mental fortitude to be like, I am going to make the decision right now to put her before I put before any of my needs. Yeah. I'm going to shut off even though I'm tired and even though I have like all this stuff going on, I'm going to be putting her first. So
yeah. And I think that goes to like, it works full circle again, kind of talking about what we talk about later, but when you put forth, and that's what I'm always saying, like on my marriage thing, the cherish thing, when you do your part and stop focusing on the other person, when you do your own part, the cycle starts, and it's an amazing, beautiful cycle. Like, if he can just put his pride away, like he was just saying, and even though he's tired, and even though he wants to really lay down, but he offers to get me a cup of tea, like, how's that going to make me feel? That's going to make me feel super loved. So then I'm going to want to do something else, you know, so it works full circle. And not that you should be focusing so much like, okay, I just did that for you, are you doing your thing now? No matter what, we should continue just to work on ourselves and be that, I guess, the best version of us. Yeah. Just being selfless.
Yeah, so one other thing that I definitely wanted to touch on is that in terms of, I'm assuming there's a good deal of people on here that are single or still dating or whatever. So one big piece of advice that I would give myself, my younger self, and I would give to you is try and spend the time now understanding yourself and what you specifically kind of need. What is the type of person that you in general would love to find that would complement certain parts of you that you have a need for. So for example, with me, I knew that it was somebody that was going to assist me. I've been with Ash for 12 years now, so I'm less this way, but I'm in general fairly cold and very emotionally not open. But in being with her, she is very good at basically helping me work through those types of things. So that's just, one example. But I would say don't settle. Definitely don't settle, and make sure that you're not like, well, it's been so and such years, I'm just gonna do this. I'm
35 or I'm 40 or whatever, and I've been dating this guy for 5 years, and I don't really love him anymore, but I should just do it because that's it. Marriage is not going to make things easier. It makes things harder.
Yep.
You get more comfortable, and so it does not make things easier, and that was something I wanted to say. Never settle. So, should we go through and answer just a couple questions?
Yeah.
I'm going to just try not to take so long. Sorry, but there's a lot, so I'm going to just
go. You're going to go all the way back?
Well, a lot of people are just saying, hey.
Oh, yeah.
So, I'm going to pull you guys in for the real deal right now.
I can't. I'm almost legally blind, so I literally can't read any of this. So.
Okay. Oh, we're blurry. That was old. Okay. Not anymore. Sorry, let me scroll down to some of it. I know, but I'm going too fast. You don't tell me. And just so we're clear too, somebody said, how do you work through the tough times? Do you guys ever have a rough time? I came from a family where my mom, she's in charge sort of thing. She's the alpha. Dino came from a family where he's in charge and his dad is the alpha.
Yeah.
So you can only imagine what two alphas together.
Yeah.
So it took us some time to get in a group and to figure out our roles. And like we said earlier, once we figured out our roles and where we were supposed to be, it's great. But it's when we're disobedient to God and when we're not following in our roles, that's when we butt heads.
Yeah, big time.
Okay. Sorry. Lots of people getting married, which is awesome.
Hey, congratulations, people.
We've been married for 12 years. Somebody asked that. Well, we've been together for 12 years. We'll be married 12
13.
years.
No, we've been together 13 now.
No, this is our 12th year.
Is it 12th year?
Yeah, in September. We keep saying 12, so I feel like it's almost 13, but it's actually 12. Great stash.
Thank you.
Yes, I'm going to save this to my stories. It only saves for 24 hours, though. I'm trying to figure out a way to save it longer.
I'm gonna go.
Okay.
I'll just talk to them real quick.
Sorry, guys. I'm just trying to catch up to the questions. Dino, would you recommend Bible college? I did not go to Bible college. Dino did. I'll wait for him to come back to answer that one.
What was the question?
Would you recommend Bible college?
Yeah, absolutely. It's one of those things I'm definitely going to be trying to. My kids are going to make their own decisions in life, but I would I'm definitely going to encourage them, especially straight out of high school. It was an amazing experience, even just for. It's a 2-year Bible college, and the Calvary Chapel's Bible College specifically is, in my opinion, more meant to equip you going into life and get you prepped for just a good solid foundation and get going to the rest of your life. And from there, I went from Calvary Chapel Bible College to community college. So I did 2 years at Bible college, 2 years at community college, and then I did a 2-year degree in finance, real estate, and business law. So I have a dual degree now, one in finance, real estate, and business law, and then one in theology.
And then somebody said, were you able to get any opportunities other than ministry with a Bible degree?
Yeah, I have both degrees. But I don't even work at all in either one of those professions. I'm a computer programmer. So I have nothing to do with it. I actually, for what I do, I don't even need a degree at all. I could have no high school diploma, actually, and it wouldn't really matter. If you can code, then people will hire you. So.
Somebody would like to know the inspiration moving in our camper. Real quick, we sold our house. We found land.
We're crazy.
And we're crazy.
Basically
We're actually really not, though. But this was like the biggest
insane.
thing for us, and I'm so glad we did it because now we're crazy for sure. But we just decided to go on an adventure and like live life a little bit differently, and I'm so glad we did. It's changed our whole life. If somebody says, "I wish I had the guidance too, but I can teach my kids," and I think that's the greatest thing to take away from any like life has hard things that happen. There's hardships and there's sorrow and there's sadness. And we live in a sinful world. Like, that just is the way that it is. So, if we can just take those things and find a way to share them and to share and spread light from them, then I feel like that's the most amazing gift out of those things, out of those hard things. Wait, I'm just looking for a question. You guys are all so sweet. You need to fill the void right now, babe.
I have really no such void filling abilities right now. I don't feel like I have like any more content to really.
At least he's honest. Sorry, guys. There's so many messages. Curious what you all do for a living, or what does Dino do if you're home with the kiddos? Well, Dino kind of answered that already.
I'll answer. Keep looking. I'll walk through. So, Ash is a stay-at-home mom, and she also obviously does a good amount of interior design and design work. So she'll help clients out. She works with like real estate agents around here to help work with their clients that tell them, hey, you should do these things to your house so that it'll get better value for the house. Obviously also she helps like people just straight up redesign their houses. We do RV renovation. We're doing an Airstream right now, and I am a computer programmer, so I code for a living. Specifically, I'm going to get into specifics here and tell the long version of the story to give Ash maybe a little bit more time. But I work for a crypto company. So if you know anything about crypto, it's like Bitcoin. Think of it as Bitcoin. So I basically I handle all of their like global services. So.
Just kind of go back. Somebody had asked if we've gone through a rough time in our marriage and how did we overcome it. I feel like we kind of touched on that, but is there more you wanted to say about that?
I mean, there's been a lot of really bumpy phases in our lives. Mm. I mean, some of which were outside things that were really, really difficult on both of us. I would say probably for me, if I like knee-jerk reaction, what was the hardest thing in our marriage? I would say that it was when Ash miscarried. So between Gavin and Quinn, we had another pregnancy, and we lost at like 11 weeks or something like that.
We had never, 11 weeks. We had never experienced death, like, and nobody had died around us. Like, no family member, no grandmas, it was just... We pretty much laid in bed for 2 days.
Yeah, it was a bit bumpy, but I mean, you get through it.
Yeah. So. And then we had Quinny.
Yeah. Seriously.
But I think, in those times whenever we've gone through something like that, where it really didn't have to, it had to do with us, but it wasn't something coming in between us. I think us just joining together. Yeah. One thing that we do in our marriage that is like super important is that we fight for sure. Like, told you, we're fiery. And we're loud, and it sounds like we're fighting a lot too, but it's just really us talking.
We're both good amount Italian, which you just get that fiery.
Yeah.
I mean, I grew up in a really loud home. I'm hands down the loudest person in my circle of friends, and I'm pretty sure you might be too.
Pretty loud.
So we're. Yeah.
But I was saying that.
Oh yeah, but real quick, somebody said, "How do we get through that stuff?" So when there's outside,
not going to bed. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, that was exactly what I was going to touch on too. So when it's outside things, Ash and I, we naturally just lean on each other. I very much lean on her to help me through those types of things, and she does the same. I always tell her she's my rock. But if there's ever a time when things are like really, really bad, I remember a handful of times when it was like,
I jumped out of a car once.
Yeah, it was like screaming at each other, kind of like freaking out. But we got home. It was like 10 or 11 o'clock at night. It was on a date night. She was like literally jumping out of the car, kind of thing, and went in the house, and I was like fuming, and it was all her fault, 100%, right?
Of course.
So I
totally
got in the house and she goes upstairs and like slams the door and I'm like, fine, I'm going in my office. And I went in my office. I started like working.
Pounding on the keyboard.
And I was like, I'm just going to sleep in the downstairs bedroom. I'm just going to sleep down here. I don't even care. And I was like,
so, freaking pride.
Yeah, I was like, all right, I'm commanded to never go to sleep with angry. Never. That's both biblically God commands it of me, and Ash and I have promised each other we will never do that. We will never go to bed ever in a fight. Never. We will go to bed and be like, look, I'm not mad at you. You're not mad at me. We do not see eye to eye right now on this, and that's okay. I love you. Let's maybe pick this up in the morning and have another conversation about it. But we'll never go to bed like angry. And in that specific circumstance I was just talking about, I literally had to go upstairs, swallow my pride, and say, look, I do not want to fight with you anymore. I just want to make this right. Whether I'm sincerely sorry for anything that I've done, I really want to just make this right. What can we do? And we both are so... And this is a hugely important trait. If you both need to be this yourself and find a spouse that is this way. We are super quick to forgive, super quick to forget. Like, I'm not one to hold a grudge, and neither is Ash, and that's definitely a huge trait that I'm appreciative of her, is that if I've done something wrong, I go, I apologize, and that's the end of it. We don't ever hold anything over each other's head. So I apologized and said I was sorry, and she was like, we're done, and we both like just melted into each other, kind of thing was done.
And I feel like this topic, we could go forever on. I have so much I would love to say about this, and so many things. So yeah, we could dive way into that. But we will definitely be going in more when we do another one. But really quick, let me just answer a couple more questions, then we'll wrap it up. How do you keep the spark alive? Babe?
So...
Or I can answer.
You can.
Okay. We try to make each other a priority. Time priority. That's like our biggest thing. Always planning date nights. And if we can't get out, then having a date night in the house. Putting the kids to bed. Our kids have never been the center of our life. They've been a gift and an added on to our life. So we love our children and they're amazing, but we have always stayed the core of the house. And it's
crystal clear to them. Do you love me more than mom? No. I love mom more than you. I'm sorry. That is always the way it'll be. I love you a lot.
So much.
But mom wins. So you don't mess with me and mom. And in all honesty, our kids have found a huge amount of stability knowing that she is my number one and I'm her number one and the kids come second in our family, kind of thing. And they find security and I mean, it sounds really bad, especially if that's not a mentality that you would necessarily adhere to. But
people are going to have their own opinions on that. Some people love revolving their lives around their kids, and that's just not something that we do. We feel like we're definitely the family unit, and we love our family. But if we're not good, then the house isn't good. Yeah. So there's just no point. Yeah. And so I feel like that is a whole other topic that I could go on about, like having this solid so that the rest is good. But when moms, I feel like, put the kids first, that's when things can get a little rocky, because then he's not feeling loved, and then I'm not going to feel loved because he's not feeling loved. So it's a big, like I said, it's a cycle.
Yeah. So, but to answer the question, which was how do we keep the spark alive? We both parties have to be intentional.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of times when I'm not being intentional and Ash is, and she's just like, I wish that he was. So instead of me trying to pull it out of him, she comes and does something extra special for me. She knows all the things. She knows the things that make me tick. She understands what is going to make me feel like I'm going to be able to take on the world again. And she just basically builds me back up. Even when especially when she feels like her tank is empty, she knows, hey, if I'm feeling this way, I need to go to Dino and put Dino first. I know she does. And I try my best to basically do exactly the same thing, is put her first. If I wish right now that she would just do the dishes and let me lay in bed, then I get up and I do the dishes and say, go get in bed. I'll make you a cup of tea and get you a piece of chocolate.
He's a good one. Chocolate. What? This is a great question. How important is it to be equally yoked?
Very. Don't. I mean, all right. So obviously that's a loaded question, because in that there are people who are not, and I'm not gonna sit and talk about people who are not, and that's another whole nother conversation. But to people who are Christian and who are currently looking for a spouse, I implore you to definitely look for someone that is going to be equally minded in that part of your life. For me, it was priority number one. I would not marry someone unless they put God before they put me.
And,
flat out.
And let me just go into that. The two relationships I had before Dino, both of the guys were not a Christian. They were not saved. And I was always trying to force them into it. And it was a huge struggle. And so, I feel like it is important. And if you're starting out in a marriage, which is already difficult, and you're not equally yoked, it could add, more pressure and difficulty to your marriage. Okay. How did the lifestyle affect your marriage and family life living in the RV?
It was bumpy at first. I mean, anything's bumpy at first when you have a big change. We had a 5-bedroom giant house. I had my own office. I had my own... When one of us would get sick upstairs, I would always end up having to go downstairs. If I was sick and snoring, I had my own bed. I mean, it was really, really nice. I fully admit it was extremely nice to be able to just have my own space and do my own thing. Mm-hmm. Moving in here was a big change, and it was difficult. And just when we moved to Vegas, Ash would cry, and she would be like, this is hard. But you adjust and acclimate, and you then start to find joy in so many little things that you take for granted. For example, we had no trash service, and Ash, I think, already has mentioned this in somewhere or the other, but we had no trash service. Right now, we live on our neighbor's land. We use their power, their water, their septic. We're on the corner of their lot, almost on ours.
Once you step out of our trailer, we're on our land.
Yeah. So, but we need their land while we are getting all our utilities hooked up. So, shoot, I forgot what I was going with this.
You were just talking about the transition of being...
Oh, yeah. So, it was extremely difficult in we had no trash service. So, I mean, that is something that's not... You don't think about. Every time I left the house or Ash left the house, you bring a bag of trash with you and throw trash in a Target dumpster or something like that. It was just always small. And then once we got trash service, it was like, oh my goodness, wow, this is the best thing ever. And then we got a mailbox, and it was like, I mean, think about that. We were so stoked. We had steak for dinner that night because we got a mailbox. I mean... Yeah.
It really has changed us a lot. Like I said in my post the other day, I remember walking into Target and seeing the boys carrying a trash bag. It sounds so silly, and when I write it, it's doesn't, I guess, give it the full impact that it really has. But that's really, really humbling. And it's really humbling to not have a place to do laundry and to have people invite you over or not invite you over. Like I said again on my stories, how moving into the RV, we did feel isolated from a lot of people because it was different and because it was something new, and either people thought that they couldn't do it themselves or that they would want to do it, and maybe they were a little bit jealous. I don't know the reasons why. But having somebody invite you over and say, hey, bring your laundry. It sounds so simple and silly, but when you don't have it and you feel like you're kind of lost, you have a home base, but it's not really a home base. You don't have your own laundry machine. You feel guilty asking people to do laundry. You feel guilty when you go over to somebody's house and you bring your trash bag because you didn't go buy a Target on the way. It's little things like that. So it has really changed us a lot in just being thankful. And then it's really stopped being about the house, building the house.
Yeah.
It has really been, this journey and us living here has been about us finding joy and a content heart in this in-between time.
Yeah.
And now I feel like we don't even care if we get into the house.
No.
We're open to so many other possibilities and opportunities. We just like love being so open-minded and free to whatever comes our way.
Yeah, the last one I'll touch on is like it really it freed us up immensely in terms of like our physical possession mentality. I was and still have a propensity to want to like collect and have just general things. I want a new TV, I want a sound bar, I want all. We have nothing. We have whatever is in this place. We put all of our stuff in storage, and then got rid of all of our stuff in storage about 6 months ago. Mm-hmm. We were thinking about it's like, what's in storage? I'm like,
stuff we didn't
nothing,
need.
Nothing.
I'm not saying if you have stuff too that you're in the wrong. Just again, every time we speak, this is our
yeah.
It's our journey.
We definitely get it a lot where people are like, well, it's okay if
projecting.
You do, if you do.
We're not projecting on anybody.
It's okay if we do have stuff.
Yeah,
absolutely. It absolutely is okay if you have stuff. We're just talking about for us and our experience. So
let's just go back to the marriage, and I'm going to wrap it up. Somebody asked if we pray for each other and we do devotionals together. No, we don't do devotionals together, and we do try and pray together. I think that's important.
It's a little bit bumpy in terms of being able. This is a complete excuse. I'm up and gone early in the morning, but I always start my day off that way. I wake up 5 a.m. I give myself 40 minutes or an hour or so to drink my coffee and read my Bible and get my day started off right. And Ash does the same thing. We just do it on our
And then usually I call him when he's like at the gym or I'm taking the kids to school, and we'll pray together or we'll talk and stuff like that. I'm interested if you guys regularly attend church as a family and how that fits into your marriage.
We do, but heavy caveat here, we live in a trailer and we travel a lot.
So we are like hit and miss at church right now.
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah. So we're one of the deals that Ash and I made moving into the trailer was like, we'll have extra income. Let's take some of that income and then go on adventures and go explore and do fun things. So we basically try and plan some sort of getaway every month, every other month. So we're gone fairly regularly.
Somebody's just asking about your part and if it's not reciprocated. What do you do? Like, if you're doing your part and it's not reciprocated. I think we kind of touched on that a bit.
Ish. But I'd say the biggest thing is not my job to push her. But I have found a huge amount of success in spending a good amount of time in prayer for her, trying to get her heart changed if I do feel like it's her heart's not right. And 9 times out of 10, my heart's the one that was in the wrong place, and I'm the one who needed to be changed at that moment in time. Now, again, that's just me, but
I have to say, too, on that, too, prayer is huge. And when we first got married, Dino ran marathons, and he was, like, super active. And then he started playing video games, which he didn't tell me he did before we got married.
Well, I figured
like, surprise, I'm going to do an all-nighter.
That's why I married you so fast.
I was like, what's an all-nighter?
I have to trick her as fast as I can and lock it in.
So he stopped. I got pregnant a couple of years later.
I got fat.
And no, but it wasn't even the weight. It was
That's
just...
where you were going. Yeah, we all know where you were going.
It was that. No, but it's, the fact that I just felt like he was not taking care of his body. And so I would nag him on it all the time, which never helped. We just ended up arguing over it. And I eventually stopped. And I remember I've talked about it on my stories, the Chelsea class. And when she said, stop trying to change your husband, just let God do it. Like, get out of the way. And so I did that. I stopped and I just prayed for Dino. And he actually started, I don't even know how long it was after that, doing his own thing and getting super into weight training with my brother. And it was like this amazing answered prayer. So that was really cool. Like, as soon as I stepped out of the way, like, God was like, just let me do my thing. Like, I can take care of this.
Yeah, but it backfired.
Yeah, but then he got really obsessed with that. So.
I have a slight problem with an addictive personality, if you will. So
that's okay, as long as you're addicted to me.
Yeah, that's addiction number 1.
I'm 24. Yeah, okay, that's amazing. I love hearing when other people have been married for a long time. So cool. How do I convince my husband that date night is important? We haven't had one since our children were born. I miss my husband, but he just isn't getting how important alone time is to me.
Ash
Pray
just
for your
books
man.
it.
Book it. And do something that he would like. That would be of interest to him.
Yeah, that would work.
That's what I would do.
Yeah. I mean, for me, I don't ever plan anything. Ash and I have actually figured out there's a good amount of things I suck at badly. Gift giving is definitely one of them. Planning things is definitely another one. So we've basically made a deal. Now, this isn't for everybody, but I don't do gifts. She picks it out. She gives it to me, and this is what you got me.
It works.
Yeah, so that was one, and then the other is I really stink at planning things. I got too much. My brain doesn't work that way, so Ash just basically plans it all.
Marriage is loving Dino through his mustache phase. Am I right?
You know what? She asked me to do this.
I like it.
She asked for it.
I think it's hot.
She's got a thing for Freddie Mercury, I think.
I had someone tell me to date around and shame me for being single. Is it important to do that as a Christian, or be patient and not settle until you date someone you're really interested in? I mean, I know we talked about it a little bit before, but I would definitely not settle. Like we said, marriage doesn't make things easier. So if you're dating somebody that you are not interested in.
Yes, but at the same time, I would throw another one out there. I don't know how old you are. You might be younger. But regardless, I would ensure that you know what it is that you're actually looking for. So for me, it was actually really important that I was in that long-term 3-year relationship with that person because it really helped form who I was and what I wanted and what I didn't necessarily want and all of those types of things. So just throwing that one out there as a caveat.
Intimacy in early marriage. Learning how to have physical, spiritual, and emotional intimacy. I don't know if that makes sense, but we've been married for 2 years now.
Yeah, that is a good question. That is definitely going to vary from person to person. So for us, how we initially dealt with it was, Ash and I were, again, I'm gonna talk about the Enneagram thing just because I'm again an obsessive personality type, and I'm really into it lately. But Ash and I are both type 8s, which basically means that we're both crazy people. No, I'm kidding. But for real though. But we are very passionate and fiery, and that so when it comes to our relationship, it wasn't necessarily something that was an issue in terms of like intimacy. We were both that's honestly one of the main reasons why we got married so fast is because it was like, look, it's better to be married than to burn in your lust kind of thing. So I was like, let's just rock this out. But
that's not why we got married though.
No. But to answer your question more a little bit better here, it has taken a very, very long time for Ash and I to really grow into each other, to understand each other, to understand like what her needs are, and then for her to understand what my needs are in all of those areas, spiritually, physically, otherwise. It is definitely a learning process. I would say if it's bumpy, work on your part of it as much as you possibly can, and do what you can to try and understand what the other person needs and wants, so that you can help at the very least fulfill your half of that obligation. Ash, it's taken time for me to be able to understand even what it is that I want and be able to communicate that to Ash. But at this point, I'm very, very clear to her what it is that I want. Love, I need a back rub tonight. I just feel like my energy's low and my affection is like.
There's no guessing then, if you can just be open and say it to each other, then you're like, Dino's not the next morning like, why didn't you rub my back?
Yeah.
Well, you didn't even ask me. How am I supposed to read your mind? Yeah. So being open about it and talking about it, like letting each other know what your needs are.
And again, be intentional in your part of it. I mean,
I would love to do an entire live on sex and intimacy. I feel so passionately about it. But I feel like it's such a great subject, and I feel like it's one subject that is not really talked about a lot amongst Christians, and especially Christian women. And so I would love to go into that more, and we definitely will. So thank you guys for tuning in.